Morning.
judge where I can hold this, because sometimes it varies. Let me introduce myself. I am Melissa Bishop. I am originally from a small town in North Georgia called Blairsville. I am a Georgia peach. I've always lived in Georgia. Go Dogs. I kind of fell into this because I have a very creative family. My dad was a high school middle teacher. He did sculpture on the side and custom knife making, and he did scrimshaw. So everybody was always creating something in my world. We had gardens that were the best in the county because my stepmom was a landscape architect. So I had my own personal playground and flower shop right out the door. So I've always been arranging things and this and that. We would go to Kentucky to visit my grandmother in Frankfort and my uncle in Lexington. My grandmother ER is the reason that I love china and silver and crystal, because she would come visit us in Blairsville with her wicker basket, and inside her wicker basket she would have her china, which was Haviland, and her crystal and her silver, which was Old Colonial by I've never known how to say that one. Okay, thank you. And she would get it out and set her place, and I would look at my place, and I had white Corel and a Ronald McDonald character glass. I didn't want that. So fortunately, we were able to go visit her, and she had all the antiques and the formal dining room, and so that's where my love started. When I was there, I would also love to hang out with my Uncle Stanley. He was an architect and an interior designer in Lexington. He loved color. He always did these historical homes in Kentucky with color, so unexpected at the time in the 80s, and it was new and it was different. But then I also liked my grandmother's antiques and the brown that we love. And so it was like, But at the time, when I was a young bride in the 90s, those two styles really weren't meshing. You had very formal, traditional, neutral, or you had colorful, modern. And so I was like, well, I like color, I like antiques, so I'm gonna do what I want. So I started pulling into my color with my antiques. And so I know this, I was an Annie Sloan person too, Justin. And if my antiques were in rough shape, I'd paint them a fun color. And if they weren't, I'd leave them brown and pull in color on the display. And so at the time, most people just called me eclectic. All of a sudden, within the last few years, I was like, my style has a name. I mean, it only took 30 years, but apparently I am a Grandmillenial, even though I'm a Gen X. So that's nice. Oh, sorry, I didn't even look right there. So when I was asked to do this presentation, I decided, okay, let me just investigate Grandmillenial. It is the hot hashtag on Instagram. It is all over Facebook, and it's all over design. So I was like, okay, what is it? So I found out that the term comes from grandmother and millennial, or lots of people refer to it as granny chic. So I like either term. I am not offended by either one. I am a grandmother. We have 6 grandchildren. I don't mind being granny chic. One of the things that I've noticed, to me, it's kind of like your grandmother's quilt with a modern twist. And so I think that's why I like it, because I've always liked color and I've always liked antiques. So Grandmillenial lets me pull those together. Oh, and I did forget something. Taking notes At the end, you're all going to get a card. And so on one side, you'll see the color wheel, which we'll talk about. And then on the other side, there are QR codes. One takes you to this presentation, so you'll have it. The other two QR codes are my Instagram page, where I post a lot, and then I have an Etsy store for Dish Lady and Dishaholic things too, so those are up there. So I hope you leave here today inspired by the love and ready to embrace the cozy charm that is Grandmillenial. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the key characteristics of Grandmillenial design. It's basically a movement that combines classic and contemporary. It combines the old and the new. We use it to create spaces that feel lived in, loved, and energizing. And so we like to think of our grandmother's living room. And what could you do to add color? So you could bring in colorful furniture, colorful wallpaper, all sorts of things to add that little blend that has become known as Grandmillenial. So for today, we're going to talk about the key characteristics of Grandmillenial design. First up, and this is probably my top favorite, classic patterns and prints. Back in the 90s, Waverly was probably my favorite thing, and Laura Ashley's store was my favorite place to go. They had all of the patterns coordinated, they had a color palette for you, it was in the border, and it was just fun. So this is something, if you are a member of BTS, you know, if you've ever seen any of my tables, I am a pattern person. I love pattern. I have lots of people say, oh, that's too busy, and that's okay. That works for you, but I'm gonna be busy, and that's gonna have a lot of pattern. First pattern is one of my favorites, floral prints. Now, if you decide you like any of this and you want to know where it is, most of these have links. So if you click on it, it'll take you to where I found it. If it takes you to an Amazon link, I do get a small commission because I'm an Amazon associate. So, but that way, if you see something you like, you don't have to go hunt for it. So, wallpaper. You know, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, I can remember in my first home getting rid of some wallpaper in the kitchen that took forever to take off the wall. It took spraying and pulling and spraying and pulling over and over again. And I was like, I'm never going to put up wallpaper. Well, at least not until 2023. And so we have wallpaper in a bedroom that our granddaughters use. It's a bright, fun pink and teal and green. And so we also have it in a bathroom. But today's wallpaper is not the wallpaper of the past. It is so much easier to get off. I'm not going to say it's easier to put up. A lot of people find it easier to put up, but that is not my superpower. It's not my realm. I still struggle with it. So, but if you're good at it, let me know and I may have some jobs for you. The next one are just pillows. And so I've found with design, you can pull in your color in your pillows. I changed my pillows out per season. So I brought these from my couch in our living room, and there are lots of floral patterns out there. So these were two that I just felt like are fun. I do have the one on the left. Sorry, that's not my superpower either, so I have to figure out which hand. So these are both from Amazon, and they're just, toss them on your couch, toss them on your bed, and bring in that pop of color. Next up, we have plaids and stripes. Those have been around forever, but now you see them in fun colors and bright colors. And so this is a ticking stripe tablecloth that I found on Amazon that I used on a tablescape with my Mataheta Regency Rose. And you know, it's a classic. It's been around for years, but it's fun, and it's a base, and it's a good place for your eyes to rest. The other, buffalo check. Buffalo check really has had a resurgence in the last few years, but now you're seeing it in all sorts of colors. So you can find every color that you could want for your color palette in your home out there. These are some wallpapers. Tabot is the coral wallpaper, and it's a stripe, but if you notice, it's kind of got a design within the stripe, and so it just adds more interest to it. And again, here we have a buffalo check in a little girl's room, so very sweet. Chinoiserie, my favorite. We have Churchill Blue Willow, which is the epitome in my thoughts of chinoiserie. And then we have these fun pillow covers. And I noticed that there were some, unless somebody scooped them up.
Right over there.
Yeah, okay, I thought, so in Cindy's booth, she has some that are in the green and blue, just like this. And so they're fun, and they're colorful. And so we've taken those patterns that were, you know, around forever and just added fun, colorful designs. Here's some more. Here's another wallpaper. This one, the wallpaper is East of the Moon, and it has some pagodas and some different animals, and it's fun. This is one of my tables that I did for BTS Bash, and the chinoiserie is actually kind of a circus theme, and so you have different animals from the circus with the pagodas. A lot of fun. I found that on Etsy. Toile. We have a fun red coverlet, and then we also have your classic blue toile tablecloth from Maison Margot, and she has a lot of fun stuff. It is a little pricey, but it's so pretty. And this is a fun Christmas toile that is on Amazon, and it's just, you know, your idyllic scene. And I've noticed that typically toile was your pastoral kind of couple from the 1700s, and then now we're starting to see a lot of things pulled into toile. Like I have a deer and a pheasant, and so toile is really starting to pull in some fun, unexpected things. All right, so this is the question that a lot of people ask me. How do I mix patterns? And the most basic recipe that I have found that works for me is to, one, select a cohesive color palette. What colors do you want to use? Find that in your fabrics. Find that in your china. Find that in your couch. Whatever you want, pull those colors out. So here, if you like the Famille Rose, there's all sorts of colors in here that you could pull out. Pinks, blues, greens. Not a fan of pinks? Go for the greens and blues. You'll hide the pinks, they'll kind of fade into the background. And so you have your color palette that you can do your whole room around, throw in your classic antiques, and you've got Grandmillenial. Second, you're gonna need to vary the scale of the patterns. So you want a big print, and then some medium prints, and then some small prints. So what I did was I brought the pillows from our couch. So here is my large scale. This is also where I get my color palette from. And then I moved on to some medium scales with a fun green. And this little thumbprint, which kind of hovers between medium and small, but it works. And then I have a small print blue And then the final principle that I use is to remember your solids. Your eyes need negative space. Your eyes need a place to rest. So throw in your solids. Now, they don't have to be just solid and nothing. You can add in textures. So here I have a solid navy with texture. So it just adds interest as your eye goes through. One of my other day jobs is to design book covers. I design romance book covers, so I get to draw. And that's one of the most important things in graphic design is to remember the negative, because your eye needs that rest. So think about in your design, did you give your eye a place to rest? All right, so there are those pillows with links to them, and then I didn't have room to bring all of my solids, so there's some extra ones on there that I have as well. All right, next up, antiques and vintage elements. This is why we're here. This is what we love. This is what reminds us of our grandmothers, those fun family members going to places for Sunday dinner where you would sit in the formal living room, hearing stories from like Jim Gatlin and all of that. This is what we love. We love those stories. We love those traditions. So this is where Grandmillenial is different from like a modern or whatever, because they embrace that. They're not trying to get rid of all of the old stuff like some styles do. So, if you're not familiar with Mark Sykes, he has an Instagram and he is a designer. He is fabulous at pulling in color in your antiques. So you see in the background, there is brown. There is a china hutch that definitely is antique, and he's pulled in lots of patterns, and you notice he has varied the scale and added, he has a definite color palette. We have brown, green, and blue. The other one is Amy Studebaker, and this is another often seen trend on Grandmillenial design, the bamboo. So this is trimmed out in bamboo, and it's great. You know, if I were at my grandmother's and I said, I want to paint that cabinet green, she would have had the vapors and needed the smell and salt. But it's fun. And, you know, if you have furniture that has nicks that you're not going to be able to restore back to that beautiful wood tone, paint it. And here, there's my pillow. And again, blue and greens tend to what I fluctuate for. So when I went through this, I tried to make sure not every image was blue and green. But now I'm going, oh, there's another one. So sorry. This James Farmer, if you've heard of him, he is a designer from Georgia. He is fabulous. He is a gardener. He does it all. He has books, and he is fabulous. So I love following him on Instagram. So here we have your traditional antique four-poster bed with classic crisp white linens. And then we have, if you notice the painted side piece, we have the pagoda and the trees from Blue Willow. And then this is the entrance to one of the homes he designed. And so you have your just fabulous entrance piece with your china in the entry hall. And then you have a fun red oriental rug. So he pulls in those antiques and colors as well. All right, so number 3, you want to mix the old and the new. What makes Grandmillenial design truly special is the way that it seamlessly mixes old and new. It's not about recreating a museum. It's not about, there was a room in my grandmother's house where we didn't go in. We looked from the threshold. But we were not allowed to go in until we got older, and she knew we weren't going to break anything. But Grandmillenial design wants that look, but it's not a museum. It's a lived-in, fun, enjoyable, sit down and stay a while. So you have a sleek, modern dining table, and over it you have a beautiful antique chandelier or an antique mirror reflecting all the color. And that's one of the keys that I like about Grandmillenial, is that you have the new stuff and you mix it with the old. So here, again, I really like James Farmer, is two of his rooms, and he has a very modern straight line sofa with a ginger jar, a classic etagere piece in the background. We've got our buffalo check, all this stuff that we've been talking about. You're going to start to see it in all these rooms and go, oh, I can add that. This fabulous piece over here is the couple he did the remodeling for and the design for. They had this piece, and it was a very dark brown, but it was damaged. And so he had it resurfaced and then painted this light blue and added all this gold trim and these modern new knobs. So again, we're mixing that old with the new. This is another Amy Studebaker design, and we have just the old brick, which is a fabulous backdrop. And then we have new sofas. We have our classic prints with our pillows. You can see the pagodas, which looks very similar to some fabric over there. And then we have our ginger jars. We have an older, and even if it's not vintage, it looks older with the coffee table and the piece up against the wall. She has a blog, and she is on Instagram as well. It's called Dimples and Tangles. She does a lot of Grandmillenial designs, so she has a lot of pieces that are your classic, antique, brown, wood tone, but then she adds fun colors. So she has a mix of a very new modern painting with a marble chest, a marble-topped chest, and then she has a contemporary new lamp, but then she's got a foot bath and one of the ginger jars and the jar of happiness and things like that. So she's incorporated that old and new. All right, number 4, eclectic accessories. I love adding the unexpected. I love making sure and that people are going to go, I wouldn't have thought to use that. I like to use the unexpected. I like to use things that make people ask me, what is that? We have on our coffee table an artificial hip joint. That's what happens when your husband's in medicine. But it's on the coffee table, and people will go, what is that? And I'm like, you really want to know? I'll tell you. And so it's just a metal piece. It sits on top of a pretty little box, and people just like, I've never seen that. And so then it leads to talk about this is what they used and what do they use now. And so it's just a fun, unexpected, very eclectic accessory. Here we have Society Social, and I don't know how well these images are, but to me, this wild lamp, it kind of looks like a Christmas tree, a shell, but it's a bright pink. And most people would not think to use that in their design, but it's fun. Her shelf styling, she pulls in a lot of shelves and family memories that have people asking questions and going, oh, I wouldn't have thought to put that on my shelf. So look at things and ask yourself, where could I use this? I always try to put something unexpected on my tables. So these are finials, curtain finials. And we were at an estate sale, and there was this bag, and I picked it up, and there were all these gold tones. And I was like, ooh, we don't need curtain finials. All of our curtains are up, and they have finials. And so my husband was like, what are you going to do with that? And I was like, I have some ideas. And it's only $1, so I'm getting it. It's going home. So now we took out the screws and they sit on a plateau on my table. And they're fun, they're unexpected, and they're the perfect color. Also, when I'm out estate sailing, which is our passion, I like to look for the unexpected and the eclectic here. So I found these fish vases when I was skimming through estatesales.net, and I saw them and I was like, blue and white, we've got to. So we go in this little tiny house. You could tell this lady loved antiques. And so she had all these dishes, and I'm wandering through and I'm like, where are the fish? I don't see the fish. And I have tunnel vision, so if I know there's something at an estate sale that I want, I don't look at anything else. Okay, where is that? I'll go back and look, but first, I gotta find this. So, I made a lap through this house. Your typical ranch, 3-bedroom, 1 bath. And I was like, oh. And I told my husband, I don't see the fish. And he was like, weren't they blue and white? And I was like, yes. And he goes, hey, go in that first bedroom on the left. And I walk in there and I'm like, there's nothing, they're not in here. And he goes, look up. And I went, and they were at the very top on a tall bookcase, kind of tucked to the back. And I was like, yes, thank you. And so they came home with me. And they're just the funnest piece. And, you know, a lot of people are like, you're putting a fish face? Mm-hmm. And all right. This is my favorite, along with pattern, thing. And this is what I've kind of become known for in addition to pattern, is color. I love color. I am certified in art education. I have taught color theory to high schoolers and graphic design for a few years. I taught elementary school before that for 20 years, and so then I switched to high school and did some art, so kind of wanted to change. But so I taught a lot about color theory in my art classes. So there is a whole science behind color theory. First of all, don't be afraid to mix and match. If you put them together and you don't like them, take them all. Split them. Try something else. It's okay. The color wheel was actually invented, and it's been around since 1666. Isaac Newton, apple fall on your head, he also invented the color theory. I did find out when I was researching him, he must have been really bored because he came up with a lot of different things. But a lot of times he was isolated in his home because of the plague. And so he did have time. And so I guess he was bored one day and took a prism and reflected light and realized he could see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, split from that white light. It is lovingly known in the art world as Roy G. Biv. And so a lot of times you'll see Roy G. Biv typed out. And he took that and put it in a wheel. So I have a color wheel on my desk. I have a color wheel in my basement, in my dish room, and I often look back at it. And it's fun and unexpected. So on your card, you have a mini color wheel as well. So let's talk about the basics with color. There are primary colors. This is the base of all colors, pretty much. If you've done any quilting or any painting, these are the colors that make up the other colors: red, yellow, and blue. You can't make red with any other colors, you can't make blue with any other colors, and you can't make yellow with any other colors. They're just there. The next one is secondary colors, and these are created by mixing your primaries. So, think back to kindergarten art or preschool when you got to just take your hand and the finger paints and just put them together and see what happened. So your secondary colors are created by mixing the three primary colors in different methods. So you get green from mixing blue and yellow. You get orange from mixing red and yellow. And you get violet from mixing blue and red. And then, depending on how much blue and how much red, you get all the variations of the color. Then finally, you have tertiary colors. And so these are created when you take a primary, so your blue, blue, yellow, or red, and then you mix it with a secondary, like green or purple or orange. And so if you think back to those wonderful days of elementary school when you would get your Crayola box, I always wanted the 96 pack. I didn't always get it, but I loved blue-green, and I loved blue-violet, and I loved, those were my favorite colors in that box of crayons. I wanted those tertiary colors. To me, it was a perfect blend of colors that I liked. So these are blue-green, blue-violet, red-orange, red-violet, yellow-orange, and yellow-green. They were real creative with the names there. All right, so this is the aspect of what colors work together. So, complementary colors. These are the colors that are opposite of each other on a color wheel. They create contrast, they create pop, they create interest. So, a lot of sports teams use these as their colors. Purple and yellow, LSU. We have blue and orange, Auburn, Florida. And then red and green, classic Christmas colors. So these are your complementary colors. Now, I personally also feel that green and pink work as a complementary color because pink is a shade of red. So that's why green and pink work so well together, because it's pretty much a complementary color. All right, so here we have some designs using those complementary colors. So here, and think about the shades that you can use of that color. So here we have a lighter blue with a deeper orange, and makes for a very fun room. Even as a Georgia Bulldog, I don't mind this blue and orange together. Here we have purple and the yellow. So you see the purple is the dominant color, and then the yellow is the secondary color. And so it's fabulous together. Here, this is a quadrille, which they make beautiful fabrics, wallpaper, pillows, all fabulous stuff. This is a red, but it's almost a berry red. And then they mixed it with a mint green. And it just pops. The red is kind of in your face with those warm tones, and that mint green just calms it down. It just adds that. This is a table I did for Bash with blue and orange. There are classic patterns using blue and orange. This is Mason's Mandalay Blue, which a lot of people love, and it's a fabulous pattern. And it's complementary colors. I use the finials again. So I just wander through the house and find what I like in those colors that I'm going to use. This is from Maine Cottage. They have the furniture and stuff, and so they've got a room of green and pink. So again, complementary colors. Here is a living room that has some navies and blues, but then with some corally reds. So even though that's more of a red, it pulls in orange undertones and makes those two complementary and work together. All right, next, analogous colors. These are colors that are next to each other on a color wheel. So blue and green, purple, blue and green, yellow and orange, red, yellow, and orange, blue, green and yellow is a very classic summer color palette. And so you can use 3 colors, you can use 2 colors, you can use 4 colors. Most color schemes with analogous colors tend to use 3 or 2. But look at a color wheel, see what colors are next to each other. If you need another color, pull it in. It doesn't matter if it's on any of your patterns or not. Pull it in, repeat it 2 more times. It's kind of a rule of thumb that I use, the rule of 3. So I try to use a color 3 times somewhere in the room. All right, so here we have some, Here we have some of these colors with the analogous. We have green and blue. And then here we have green, blue, and purple with this wallpaper that is kind of a hydrangea, but it's not a clear hydrangea, so it's pulling in all those analogous colors. And then the image on the left is a Ballard Designs in one of their fabrics that has a lot of blues and greens. This is Maison de Canine, and so here we have a blue and purple color palette on our tablescape, and a lot of times when I post something with blue and purple, people will go, I wouldn't have thought to use those together. My favorite color is blue. So in my mind, I think of blue as a neutral. Think of your favorite pair of denim jeans. You put every top in your wardrobe with your favorite pair of denim jeans, or I do. And so to me, I can pull in anything with my blue. On the right is a table that uses pink, yellow, and orange. So we have that analogous color scheme. All right, so next we have what's called triadic and tetradic colors. Triadic colors are 3 colors and they're evenly spaced on a color wheel. They form a triangle when they're connected. So we have a yellow-orange, a red-violet, and a blue-green. Think tropical. Those beautiful flowers and colors of the tropics. You also can use blue, yellow, red, your primary colors. That's why any table with blue and red, blue and yellow, all 3 colors, that's why those work. That's why you can use it in your design. If you look at Dick's Flowers, you can see a lot of these color theories coming to life in front of you. Then the other one is a tetradic, which these are the opposing colors on the color wheel, and they create a rectangle or a square. So here we have orange, green, blue, and red. Green and red being complementary, blue and orange being complementary, so they all work together. All right, so here are some fun rooms full of color and the tetradic scheme. So we have a blue and a red and a green and an orange. It's hard to see all of them, but there are various shades throughout in both of them, using those color schemes, but different shades. Here we have, this is the one that makes me think of tropical and palm trees and headed to the Caribbean. We have the fuchsia and the plum and some green violet, and it's just all of your classic vintage pieces, but in a fun new way. And then this one, it's hard to see, it's purple and orange and green and red. And some more. We have another bow that's got pink and blue-green and orange and yellow, all sorts of mixed up. So these, the tetradic and triadic are the ones where if you really like color, you can pull in lots of color using that. All right, 3 minutes to spare. So, thank you so much. My husband is going to pass out the cards. Like I said, that presentation you saw was on here. So, here's your QR code. If you're not sure how to use a QR code, feel free to ask me, I'll help you. You just take your phone, scan it, and it opens up that document. So, but, thank you. Any questions?